and welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie. We took a short break over the Thanksgiving holiday, but we're back. And this week, if you like lessons in chemistry, either the book or the streaming series, we've got some picks for you. So Jill, what's your first pick?
So my first one is The Last Animal by Ramona Oabel, which don't let the yucky covered hold you back. A playful, witty, resonant novel in which a single mother and her two teen daughters engage in a wild scientific experiment and discover themselves in the process. Jane is a serious scientist on the cutting-edge team of a bold project looking to de-extinct the woolly mammoth. She's privileged to have been sent to Siberia to hunt for an ancient DNA, but there's a catch. Jane's two tag-along teen daughters are there with her in the Arctic, and they're bored enough to cause trouble. Brilliant, fiery, sharp-tongued Eve is 15 and willing to talk back to the male scientist in her way her mother is not, and sweet 13-year-old Vera, who seems to absorb all the emotional burdens of her small family, just wants to be home in Berkeley baking cakes and watching bad TV. When Eve and Vera stumble upon a 4,000-year-old baby mammoth that has been perfectly preserved, their discovery sets off a chain of events that pits Jane against her colleagues, and soon her status at the lab is tenuous at best. So what does a female scientist do when she's a passionate devotee to her field and her gender and life story hold her back? She goes rogue. As Jane and her daughters ping-pong from slopes of Siberia to a university in California, from the shores of Iceland to an exotic animal farm in Italy, The Last Animal takes readers on an expansive, big-hearted journey that explores the possibility and peril of the human imagination on a changing planet, and what it's like to be a woman and a mother in a field dominated by men, and how a wondrous discovery can be best to be enjoyed with family, even teenagers.
My first pick, I think, is appropriate. It's the national bestseller, Lab Girl by Hope Yaron, published in 2016. Acclaimed scientist, this author has built 3 laboratories, and she has studied trees, flowers, seeds, and soil. Her book is a revelatory treatise on plant life, but it's also so much more. Lab Girl is a book about work, love, and the mountains that can be moved when those two things come together. It is told through the author's stories about her childhood in rural Minnesota with an uncompromising mom and a father who encouraged hours of play in his classroom's labs, about how she found a sanctuary in science and learned to perform lab work done with both the heart and the hands, and about the inevitable disappointments, but also the triumphs and exhilarating discoveries of scientific work. Yet at the core of this book is the story of a relationship the author forged with a brilliant, wounded man named Bill, who becomes her lab partner and best friend. Kind of sounds like lessons in chemistry a bit. There's sometimes rogue adventures in science. Take them from the Midwest, across the United States, and back again, over the Atlantic to the ever-light skies of the North Pole and to tropical Hawaii, where she and her lab currently make their home. So check out Lab Girl.
So my next one, if you've read Lessons in Chemistry or watched it, you know it's kind of a historical fiction a little bit. It's got, I think, place in the 50s, I think. So does this one takes place in the 60s. Park Avenue summer. Mad Men meets Devil Wears Prada as Renee Rosen draws readers into a glamour of 1965 New York City and Cosmopolitan magazine, where a brazen new editor-in-chief, Helen Gurley Brown, shocks America by daring to talk about women, all things off limits. New York City is filled with opportunities for single girls like Alice Weiss, who leaves her small Midwestern town to chase her big city dreams and unexpectedly lands the job of a lifetime working for Helen Gurley Brown, the first female editor-in-chief of then-failing Cosmopolitan magazine. Nothing could have prepared Alice for the world she enters, as editors and writers resign on the spot, refusing to work for the woman who wrote the scandalous bestseller Sex and the Single Girl. While confidential memos, article ideas, and cover designs keep finding their way in the wrong hands, someone tries to pull Alice in the scheme to sabotage her boss. But Alice remains loyal and becomes all more determined to help Helen succeed. As pressure mounts at the magazine and Alice struggles to make her way in New York, she quickly learns that in Helen Gurley Brown's world, a woman can demand to have it all. Park Avenue summer.
My second pick is The Female Persuasion. Jill said she's checked this out twice but hasn't read it yet, by Meg Wolitzer, published back in 2018. Greer Kadetsky is a shy college freshman when she meets the woman she hopes will change her life. Faith Frank, dazzlingly persuasive and elegant at 63, has been a central pillar of the women's movement for decades, a figure who inspires others to influence the world. Upon hearing Faith speak for the first time, Greer, madly in love with her boyfriend Corey, but still full of longing for an ambition that she can't quite place, feels her inner world light up. And then, astonishingly, Faith invites Greer to make something out of that sense of purpose, leading Greer down the most exciting path of her life as it winds toward and away from her meant-to-be love story with Corey and the future she always imagined. It was described as charming and wise, knowing and witty. The author delivers a novel about power and influence, ego and loyalty, womanhood and ambition. At its heart, this book is about the flame we all believe is flickering inside of us, waiting to be seen and fanned by the right person at the right time. It's a story about the people who guide and the people who follow, and how those roles evolve over time, and the desire within all of us to be pulled into the light. So, check out the Female Persuasion, and maybe sometime you'll find time to read it.
Might have to read it this time. So also Lessons in Chemistry, she has a cooking show, if you remember. Mm-hmm. So that made me think of Julia Child. And you could read, there's a couple of biographies on Julia Child. You could do that. But this is quotes from Julia Child.
Fun.
People who love to eat are always the best people, and Other Wisdom by Julia Child. It's just a little short thing. So like this could even be a good Christmas gift if you have a friend that likes Lessons in Chemistry a lot. If you're afraid of butter, use cream. So decrees Julia Child, the legendary culinary authority and cookbook author who taught America how to cook and how to eat. This delightful volume of quotation compiles some of Julia's most memorable lines on eating. The only time to eat diet food is while you're waiting for the steak to cook. On drinking, on life. I think every woman should have a blowtorch. On love, travel, France, and so much more. Perfect for Julia fans, home cooks, and anyone who simply loves to eat and drink. So, Julia Child, people who love to eat are always the best people. You know, and I agree with that.
That's cute. That's very cute. I'm sure she's got lots of little words of wisdom in that one. My next pick is The Woman with the Cure by Lynn Cullen. And as I was looking at the cover of this book, Bonnie Garmus, who's the author of Lessons in Chemistry, says, "Huge applause. Women have always been in science, despite those who would pretend otherwise." So, The Woman with the Cure. She gave up everything and she changed the world. It's a riveting novel based on the true story of the woman who stopped a pandemic from the best-selling author of Mrs. Poe, if you're familiar with that book. In 1940s and 50s America, polio is as dreaded as the atomic bomb. No one's life is untouched by this disease that kills or paralyzes its victims, particularly children. Outbreaks of the virus across the country regularly put American cities in lockdown. Some of the world's best minds are engaged in the race to find a vaccine. The man who succeeds will be a god. But Dorothy Horstman is not focused on beating her colleagues to the vaccine. She just wants the world to have a cure, applying the same determination that lifted her from a humble background as the daughter of immigrants to becoming a doctor. Often the only woman in the room, she hunts down the monster where it lurks, in the blood. The discovery of hers and an error by a competitor catapults her closest colleague to a lead in the race. When his chance to win comes on a worldwide scale, she is asked to sync or validate his vaccine and to decide what is forgivable and how much should be sacrificed in pursuit of the cure. So, sounds like an interesting read.
So my next one is kind of back on the women doing things in science and stuff. The Wife app, which isn't really science, well, computer science, I guess, counts. Carolyn Mackler is the author of this, and it was published in 2023. Because every wife deserves a happy ending, 3 best friends decide they're finally done with their ex-husbands, taking their work as wives and moms for granted. They're ready to monetize the mental load, stick it to their exes. Lauren, mother of twins, wakes up one morning to her wife alarm bells sounding. She slews on her husband's phone and stumbles on a dirty secret that explodes her marriage. Madeline has it all, a penthouse apartment, a perfect daughter, and no strings attached romps with handsome men. But when she learns she might lose her child to her ex in England, it stirs up a decades-old personal tragedy. Sophie, with too much FOMO and never enough money, obsesses over her ex-husband's family 2.0, while keeping her true desires hidden, even from herself. It starts as a joke running during a tipsy night out as Lauren, Madeline, and Sophie rail against everything wives do for free. Let's build an app that monetizes the mental load and maybe revenge on our exes in the process. Soon the wife app is born, and before long, it's the fastest growing startup in New York City. But then life intervenes, love intervenes, ex-husbands intervene, and consequences are bigger than anything Lauren, Madeline, and Sophie could have expected. Carolyn Macker marks her debut into adult fiction with a roller coaster ride of revenge and redemption that is once a send-up of modern marriage and a celebration of female friendship and love in all forms. So, The Wife App by Carolyn Mackler.
Sounds like it's got quite a bit going on in that one. My fourth pick is Chemistry by Weike Wang. This was named by the Washington Post as a notable work of fiction in 2017 and by Entertainment Weekly as a best debut novel that year. It was also named a best book of 2017 by NPR, so got a lot of good reviews. It's a luminous coming-of-age novel about a young female scientist who must recalibrate her life when her academic career goes off track. It was also described as perfect for readers of Lab Girl.
Wow.
At first glance, the quirky, overworked narrator of this novel seems to be on the cusp of a perfect life. She's studying for a prestigious PhD in chemistry that will make her Chinese parents proud, or at least satisfied, and her successful, supportive boyfriend has just proposed to her. But instead of feeling hopeful, she's racked with ambivalence. The long, demanding hours at the lab have created an exquisite pressure cooker, and she doesn't know how to answer the marriage question. When it all becomes too much and her life plan veers off course, she finds herself on a new path of discoveries about everything she thought she knew. The author of the book is a graduate of Harvard, where she earned her undergraduate degree in chemistry and her doctorate in public health. So I think this would be a good read, too. Chemistry.
I like that's written by scientists, too. They know what they're talking about. My next one is Her Hidden Genius by Marie Benedict. This was published in 2022. Rosalind Franklin has always been an outsider, brilliant but different. Whether working in the laboratory she adored in Paris or toiling at the university in London, she feels closest to the science, those unchanging laws of physics and chemistry that guide her experiments. When she is assigned to work on DNA, she believes she can unearth its secrets. Rosalind knows that if she just takes one more X-ray picture, one more after thousands, she can unlock the building blocks of life. Never again will she have to listen to her colleagues complain about her, especially Maurice Wilkins, who'd rather conspire about genetics with James Watson and Francis Crick than work alongside her. Then it finally happens. The double helix structure of DNA reveals itself to her with perfect clarity, and what unfolds next, Rosalind could never have predicted. Marie Benedict's powerful new novel shines a light on a woman who sacrificed her life to discover the nature of our very DNA, a woman whose world-changing contributions were hidden by men around her, but whose relentless drive advanced our understanding of humankind. So, Her Hidden Genius by Marie Benedict.
My last pick is also by Marie Benedict, and I picked The Personal Librarian, which featured also a strong woman. So, the remarkable little-known story of Oabel da Costa Green, J.P. Morgan's personal librarian, who became one of the most powerful women in New York despite the dangerous secret she kept in order to make her dreams come true. In her 20s, she is hired by J.P. Morgan to curate a collection of rare manuscripts, books, and artwork for his newly built Pierpont Morgan Library. Belle becomes a fixture on the New York society scene and one of the most powerful women in the art and book world, known for her impeccable taste and shrewd negotiating for critical works as she helps build a world-class collection. But she has a secret, one she must protect at all costs. She was born not Belle da Costa Green, but Belle Marion Greener. She is the daughter of Richard Greener, the first black graduate of Harvard and a well-known advocate for equality. Belle's complexion isn't dark because of her alleged Portuguese heritage that lets her pass as white. Her complexion is dark because she is African American. The Personal Librarian tells the story of an extraordinary woman famous for her intellect, style, and wit, and shares the lengths to which she must go for the protection of her family and her legacy to preserve her carefully crafted white identity in the racist world in which she lives. So, another woman up against the odds.
Yeah. So great choices this week for strong women. And of course, if you haven't read Lessons in Chemistry, you probably should. We made a whole video about books that are like it.
I loved it. You liked
great.
it.
It was great.
Yeah, we enjoyed it. Did you like the streaming series?
I liked it, but not as much as the book.
Same
the book
here.
Definitely has more.
Same here. Although I have to say, the daughter in the streaming series, I loved Mad. Who
Oh,
doesn't
she
like a
did
dog
great.
called 6:30? I mean, you gotta love that.
Should have been more dog.
We thank you for watching. You can find us on Facebook and on our YouTube channel. We've been getting more views on YouTube lately, so that's kind of nice that you're finding us there. And until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.